right, we got the sign. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regular board meeting. Today is November 21st. For the first item here, we are going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have Trail Ridge students Eden Mwasanga and Enzo Rihak that will lead the pledge. If you would all stand. Thank you so much. All right, I want to welcome all of you guests this evening. Can I get an adoption of the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have item 2.01, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Board President. Got a lot of things going on, so congratulations to film and broadcasting students at Lee Summit West, Lee Summit North, and Lee Summit High. They all did extremely well in a recent four-state competition in Springfield. Students placed in short film categories, anchoring, editing, and cinematography. Congratulations to Lee Summit High School seniors Noah Reeves and Nathan Butler at the state swim championships. Nathan came in first, a state champ in the 100 butterfly, and Noah came in first and set a new state record in the 50 free race. Congratulations to all three high school theater programs for putting on fantastic musicals. I will also say the middle schools have done that as well. Lee Summit West show Beauty and the Beast, Lee Summit North Legally Blonde, the musical, and Lee Summit High Schools, one you may have never heard of before. It's relatively new, May We All, and they've all had rave reviews. If you still want to see one, May We All is still playing this weekend. If you're a fan of country music, it is modern country music based. Congratulations to Pleasant Lee and Summit Lakes Middle School's cross-country teams. Both went to the state competition a few weeks ago against 24 other schools and more than 200 runners. Summit Lakes Middle School girls took first place and the boys finished in third place, and PLMS girls team finished 10th and the boys finished 11th. PLMS cross-country team also recently dropped off a check for $9,200 at Prodeo. This is money they raised at their annual Lapathon. That brings their total money raised for Prodeo over the last 6 years to $50,000. That's very impressive. Lee Summit West soccer player Danielle Wozniak has been named to the 14th annual Boys High School All-American Game roster. Only 40 high school soccer players are selected from across the country. So congratulations, Daniel. Congratulations to teams from Lee Summit High School and Summit Technology Academy who participated in the recent MECA challenge hosted by the Career Education Consortium. Student teams were tasked with addressing the prompt, how might we create lasting solutions that enhance the quality of life for our generation and future generations? You know, just a small question there, right? The team from Lee Summit High School, led by Matt Sadler and Milicia Otero, earned the Communication and Selling Award, and the team from STA, led by Kristen Pearson, won the Innovator Award. A major honor and accomplishment today for a Lee Summit North senior. Brandon Gilbert was surprised today. He was offered a 4-year Navy ROTC scholarship during a visit from Rear Admiral Larry Watkins, who visited with avid classes from all three high schools about his experience at as a U.S. Naval officer. Congratulations to Zachary Pross, who we surprised yesterday. He's one of our field tech specialists and our latest Learning for Life award winner. Mr. Pross was nominated by his colleagues for his outstanding qualities, including the following. He's an excellent problem solver, ensuring that students and staff have the tools they need to succeed through humor and positivity. He turns frustrating tech issues into manageable moments and helping everybody stay on track. And his 2 daughters were there to see him get it. That was the best part. We're cheering on this Friday night, tomorrow night. LSN, the Broncos, are undefeated, 11-0. They face another undefeated team, Nixa Eagles, right here behind me, at Lee Summit North in the state quarterfinals. So 8 teams left in the state in Class 6, and these 2 are undefeated. So I often share about what students are doing, but I want to share some academic things too. Just, last year, We had 941 IB courses completed. That's up 92 from the year prior. We have 1,736 dual credit courses taken and completed by our high school kids. That's second highest in our school history. At 1,086 graduates with a 2.8 or higher cumulative GPA, that's a record. At 108 in early college program, that's a record. At 565 at Summit Tech Academy, that's up 63. We have 522 students participate in the Career Technical Student Organization, that's a record. And we had 7,464 students participating in a co or extracurricular activity, which is also a record. So thank you to all our staff and students for being so involved. Updates. Filing opens December 10th for community members interested in running for the LSR7 Board of Education on the April 8th, 2025 ballot. Lee Summit R7 School District will accept declarations of candidacy for any person interested in running. Those interested may file with the Secretary of Board of Education, Linda Ismert, at the school district's offices located here, 301 Northeast Tudor Road. Filing will continue during regular business hours and end on, sadly, New Year's Eve, sorry, Linda, at 5 p.m. All three high school SMART programs are hosting the annual Freeze Out event at Lee Summit High School from 3:30 to 6:30. The SMART programs at all three high schools, they promote drug and alcohol and tobacco and fight-free environments. They're raising awareness and collecting donations for those who need it most. Donations go to the Lee Summit Social Services. Among the most in-demand items are pasta, peanut butter, canned chicken, laundry detergent, diapers, sizes 4, 5, and 6, and toilet paper. When you're out in downtown Lee Summit, and there is a tree lighting tomorrow, and we have several, I think we have 3 different performances going on there. Be sure to take a moment to really window shop, because our LSR7 art students from all 4 middle schools and all 3 high schools participated in a client-connected projects, consulting with 19 business owners to design holiday and winter-inspired window decorations to encourage shopping locally this holiday season. As you know, the district has been engaging in a planning for the April 2025 bond issue for more than a year now. Since the CAC came to the final recommendation for projects this week, I want to first express my deep gratitude for the Citizen Advisory Committee and everyone involved in the CFMP process. These processes are at the heart of our efforts to ensure we're addressing the needs of our students and of our schools thoughtfully and responsibly. I know that throughout our bond planning journey, we've had difficult conversations, encountered a wide range of emotions and perspectives. That's not only expected, I believe it's a good thing, and I think this room full is a good thing too. It means people care. It reflects the passion of our parents, staff, and community members have for our schools and the future of our students. It's not easy to prioritize projects when the needs are so significant and the resources are limited. Not one of us has all the answers, and that's me included. This is our district. And so I'm very, very grateful for everyone involved. The dialogue we've had and the dedication shown by everyone involved just demonstrate how much this community values education and our student success. I appreciate that because it makes the district stronger and ensures that we're shaping a vision for facilities that will serve our district well into the future. So thank you to everyone for your time, energy, and passion. I'm grateful for all of it. It truly makes a difference, and I'm glad to see this room full for that reason. So that's my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Buck. All right, next up we have item 3.01, School Spotlight, Trail Ridge Elementary.
There we go. We are really excited to introduce you to one of our 15 clubs at Trail Ridge. They have had an incredibly exciting year, and they want to tell you a little bit more about that. Dan Barnes is our sponsor, and he's there with a lot of our Garden Club students. Mr. Barnes?
Let's get a hand mic and so they can pass it through. And while we're doing that, Ms. Kevin, do you want to introduce yourself?
I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Jennifer Kevin, principal at Trail Ridge Elementary, and Steve Campbell is here with me also. He is our assistant principal.
Hello, school board members and families and guests. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Enzo, and we are the Trail Ridge Elementary Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees Garden Club. First, we would like to share about the importance of our American sweet gum moon tree. Moon trees are trees grown from seeds that have been flown around the moon. Our American sweet gum seeds were part of NASA's Artemis 1 test flight in 2022. NASA and the USDA service partnered to send tree seeds to space and encourage STEM education that connects the earth science. We were very excited to plant our moon tree by the playground for everyone to see and one day sit in its shade.
Hello, my name is Eden. I would like to share a few things about our school garden. First, we love growing weird things, watch them grow, and we really love eating what we grow. Every day we are excited to see new growth and eat as many cherry tomatoes as possible. As you have seen, we grow lots of things to harvest in fall. This spring we like to help with the help of Lori Danella, the director of Lee Summit Nutritional Services. We won a $5,000 national grant from Apples for ED. To make improvements to our school garden with the grant, we have built a greenhouse and purchased workspace tables so we can grow our own starter plants for planting in the spring. We also were able to build 5 new raised garden boxes. Garden boxes help us be better at soil health, pest control, watering, and we don't have to bend over as much. The garden boxes warm up faster in the spring, so we will be able to plant sooner. They give us more usable space to plant. Finally, our colorful flowers are 5 flower beds to encourage pollinators to help the garden bloom. We have 1st to 5th graders in our garden club, and we work together to learn and enjoy gardening. Thank you for allowing us to share.
And while our garden club is still standing, Bridget, would you mind coming over? Bridget was instrumental in helping our garden club, our kids, get this moon tree. But she is also instrumental in creating a culture of kindness. She cultivates a culture of kindness at Trail Ridge. She has no idea that this was going to happen tonight. So Bridget, we want to honor you with this little plaque for being such a very special part of our school. So thank you.
And Bridget and Ms. Kevern, I think the Board of Education would love to get a picture with you guys to honor your volunteer. And the kids, can you come up, stay up there, and you kind of get in front, and the adults will get behind you?
Thank you, guys. That greenhouse is amazing. I want one of those.
Those look pretty cool.
All right. Next up, we have 3.02, School Spotlight, East Trails Middle School.
Dr. Moorhead, while they're setting up, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you.
I'm going to get up and watch them from that direction.
Yes. Hi, I'm Whitney Moorhead with a very loud voice. I'm the principal at East Trails Middle School, and tonight we wanted to showcase our mariachi band that we have at East Trails, which is led by Mr. David Torello, and we also have Miss Rachel Kemp here as well, who are our orchestra teachers. And I'll turn it over to you all.
Yes, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be here. Like Dr. Moorhead said, my name is David Torello, and alongside Rachel Kemp, we are the co-orchestra directors at East Trails Middle School. And we're very excited. It was 2 years ago, at the end of the year, we received a PEAK grant from the Lee Summit Education Foundation, and we were able to purchase some of these instruments you guys see in the back. So we were able to start a mariachi program at East Trails. And this has just really kind of given us an opportunity to kind of open the door to the music department a little bit wider than we were before. So all the students in front of you are 7th or 8th grade students from East Trails Middle School. All of them are in at least one of our music courses, though many of them are in more than one. But some of them had some talents that they weren't really able to utilize in their music classes, especially anybody that plays an instrument in the guitar family that's in the back there. We've had lots of students in the Lee Summit programs that have known those instruments and played them, but just didn't have an ensemble to play with at school. So we were really grateful to get this grant, so we were able to create an ensemble where we can have those kids learning and playing along with their classmates. And then in addition, we have kiddos that are in the orchestra program that they're in class every day, but then these are kind of our high flyers that really thrive on learning some extra styles. And so we're able to get them some extra music in their lives too. So we have one song prepared for you tonight. This is a song called Mi Cabalito, and this is by John Nieto.
they're exiting, I wanted to introduce Mr. Joe Hollingsworth, who is going to recognize our Volunteer of the Year for East Trails.
Hi, I'm Joe Hollingsworth. Good evening, board members and LSR family. It is my absolute pleasure to recognize someone who has made a legendary impact on the East Trails D&D Club, David Doherty. Dungeons & Dragons, or D&D, is a role-playing game about creating a story together through teamwork, strategy, and creativity. But to be honest, it's mostly about finding somebody who can keep us from derailing campaigns with ridiculous character backstories, and that someone for us is David Doherty. Thank you, David. Whether he's DMing epic adventures, narrating our opening, which you see here in the picture, or closing, helping formulate new club organization, or patiently explaining new rules to new players for the 100th time, David has been the glue holding this group together. He's made D&D not just a game, but an experience for our students, a place where imagination runs wild and dice rolls are always consequential. David, thank you for your time, endless dedication, patience, and your ability to turn every campaign into a story we will never forget. You are not just the Volunteer of the Year, but you're a critical hit to our team. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have item 3.03, recognizing Parent Academy graduates. The Lisa LSR7 School District recognizes the importance of its partnership with parents for future success. The LSR7 Parent Academy was created to strengthen its relationship with parents across our diverse school community. Principals were asked to recommend parents who have demonstrated a strong commitment to the district through service and volunteer activities. The third Parent Academy class consisted of dedicated parents representing more than 20 schools who gave their time and energy to participate in 4 fall sessions to engage with LSR7 leaders about district operations, academics, and strategic planning. The district shares its gratitude for the time and talent exemplified by this cohort as it recognizes the LSR7 Parent Academy class of 2024. All right, as I call your name, if you would come up. Abby Cheney. Oh.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
That's the best. All right, Alicia Thomas. Alyssa Becho. April Smith. Beth Schwope. Devoya Marshall. Jamie Shalito. Jennifer Edwards. Jennifer Sogas. Julian Robinson. K1 Nikki Robbins. Kim Sentones. Kim Moldenhauer. Christy Harsha. Lakeisha Cole. Mallory Harshner. Maria Lockett. Michelle Dawson. Mike Hathcock. Sarah Anderson. Chantris Fondren. Shelby Hammonds. Shella Embry Presley. Stephanie Nab. Trisha Rasha. Valencia Hirschberger. Congratulations, everyone.
Do you want the board? Board of Education, can you come join this photo?
Hold on, we may have one more. Danielle Hopke. Thank you.
All right, Board of Education, come around and join these wonderful people who gave time of their 4 nights. And I just want to say, this is the first time I've seen Maria without her child. Her child, a newborn baby, also is a graduate, came to every meeting. So. And for the 14 staff members and Board President Foley who helped present over those 4 nights, thank you also for all of your time and dedication. I know the graduates loved that, and they loved interacting with you guys. We have some that couldn't make it tonight because they have student activities. We all know how busy life is, so they wish they could have been here.
Thank you, everyone. Next up, we have item 4.01, public comments.
We appreciate your attendance and your willingness to speak to the board. Please remember that the board does not respond to public comments during the meeting, but may ask clarifying questions. Your comments will be noted by the board and administration, and if appropriate, we will discuss further action with the superintendent. Only those who have signed up prior to the meeting will be allowed to address the board. Pursuant to board policy BDDH, we will be limiting all comments to no more than 7 people with a limit of 3 minutes each. You may not transfer any of your time to other speakers. Your allotted 3 minutes will be counted down on the screen. Please conclude your comments when the timer expires. Your comments must align with the subject described in your written request to speak and must directly relate to the business or operations of the district. Your comments may not discuss individual employees or students in the district, regardless of whether your comments speak of them in a positive or negative light. Any such comments should be directed to the superintendent, who will then determine if further action is needed. Because the board does not and cannot impose age-based restrictions on who attends or views board meetings, and because children of all ages frequently do attend board meetings, comments may not include obscenities or sexually explicit content. Furthermore, comments may not include threats of physical or emotional harm or threaten in any way the safety of others. We also remind all those in the audience that board policy BDDH prohibits the use of signs or audible responses. This includes applause, jeers, or cheers. If you are in the audience and wish to respond in some way to public comment, you may contact the board or superintendent after the meeting. Your comments must be directed only to the board, because the purpose of public comment is to bring something to the attention of the board. You may not speak to or interact in any way with any person in the audience. When your name is called, go to the podium and clearly state your name and the organization you represent, if any. Michael Mcru.
Hello, my name is Mike Mcru. I'm a parent of students at Lee Summit Elementary and Pleasantly Middle School. Esteemed members of the Board of Education, I stand before you today to express my deep concern about the proposed closure of Lee Summit Elementary. This decision, if implemented, would mark a profound departure from the district's history, from suburban school districts in the metro area, and would have far-reaching consequences for our community. The rapid and inconsistent approach to this decision is deeply troubling. In 17 days, we've witnessed a shift from ambitious renovation plans to a proposal for a reprogrammed facility at the Lee Summit Elementary site to a complete closure with no plan and no investment at our school. This lack of transparency and inconsistent messaging from the central office has raised serious questions about this process. The central office's dismissal of our concerns regarding unforeseen capital costs, inconsistent enrollment projections, operational impacts, negative neighborhood impacts at both sites in question, and concerns about pedagogical outcomes is disheartening. We deserve a thorough and transparent discussion that considers all factors. The abrupt nature of this decision contrasts sharply with the deliberations afforded to other districts. We believe that our community, at the very least, deserves the same level of dignity and consideration afforded the Kansas City public school stakeholders. The central office's most common response is a circular argument. I'm sorry, but we must vote to close your school within 40 days, because if we don't, we may have to close your school. We are not a boiling kettle that needs to be shut off. A community deserves better dialogue than this. We must have the time and opportunity to thoroughly consider the profound effects of a school closure. We urge the board to reconsider this proposal and prioritize a more deliberate and inclusive decision-making process. The future of our school and our community is at stake. Let my personal stance be clear. I believe that our community is best served by investing $18 million into Lee Summit Elementary and continuing its core mission of educating K-5 students. I feel it is feasible, efficient, and a positive opportunity that is in the best interests of LSR7. I will have specific considerations for the board later on in agenda item 9.01. I thank you for your time.
Monty Helm.
Hello, members of the board and Superintendent Buck. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I really appreciate it. My name is Dr. Monty Helm. I'm a research scientist and college educator. And like Mr. McGraw, I share a real deep concern about the closure of LSE. As a scientist, once I heard about this, I of course turned to the data and the literature to find out what I could find about what's going on with drops in enrollments and consolidations and their impact. And as you all probably know, our public education system is under assault. The pandemic fundamentally reshaped how families view schooling. Many of them have now chosen homeschooling and explore alternatives such as charter schools. Nationwide, we saw a staggering 20% drop in enrollments due to the pandemic, and those students have not been recovered. And our projections from the district support that and show that we do anticipate further drops in enrollment. Our public school system is not addressing the needs of our communities. Consolidation is often touted as a solution to declining enrollment and rising costs. In the past, that made sense. Larger schools are often seen as more efficient and capable of offering a wider range of programs, but advancements in energy efficiency and real-time communication have changed the equation. The data now shows we passed the tipping point where consolidations are effective, and in fact, they often lead to diminished student learning and increased costs for the district. Recent 2024 data from schools in Texas post-consolidation have revealed troubling outcomes, including lower rates for post-secondary educational attainment, employment, and earnings. Most concerning, these negative effects disproportionately harm students from economically disadvantaged families, the same families that LSE largely serves. And that's just one example from the literature. All the data I found points to one clear conclusion: smaller schools deliver better outcomes. They promote higher student engagement, stronger community ties, better academic results. They also cost less to operate and maintain over time. Smaller schools are more adaptable, innovative, and responsive to the needs of students and families. They build community trust, resulting in higher enrollments and public support. Consolidation, while useful in the past, is now an outdated model. It creates a sense of disconnection among students, families, and educators, ultimately driving more families away from public education. Rather than moving forward with the closure of LSE, I asked the district to explore alternatives that prioritize recruitment and retention for our public schools, aligning those schools with the needs of our communities. Planning for the future requires courage, creativity, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. Consolidation might seem like the safe option, but it's not the only option. In fact, I think it's a bad option, and I think it's just the easy option to choose. I think we should be looking at more harder choices and looking at the district overall and how we can get to smaller size schools. Thank you for the chance to address you. I appreciate it.
Danielle Peel.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Peel, and I'm here tonight to bring awareness to the condition and the liabilities related to Lee Summit North's weight room and wrestling facilities. I have provided images and testimonies as evidence for my presentation tonight, and that was emailed to you earlier today. My son became a student athlete at Lee Summit North as a freshman fall of 2020. During our first year in sports, our coach mentioned needing updates to the weight room and other sports facilities. January 19, 2023, approximately 2 years ago, I emailed LSR7 Board of Education regarding the condition of the weight room. Besides a couple email responses from 2 board members, I never received any additional correspondence or actions regarding these concerns. If you refer to the images provided, you will see that our metal weight benches are rusted and chipped, which allows the weights to fall off the rack. The leather from the benches has been peeled off due to wear and tear. The students lie directly on the floor between the rusted chip racks where the weights are unstable without mats or a designated area for floor exercises. This is an extreme liability for our school and district. There were 482,000 exercise equipment related injuries in 2023. There is only one weight room at Lee Summit North that is utilized by every sport at Lee Summit North, including some academic classes. Lee Summit North has approximately 700 student athletes that all have access to the weight room. We are aware that there is a bond being considered to fund improvements to facilities in our district. There was a recommendation made for overall updates to be made at Lee Summit North that was reviewed by the CAC. We appreciate the work completed by the committee, which provided strong support for Lee Summit North landing in 5th out of 11 projects. However, due to the total amount requested being grouped together, we again did not make the cut. The committee visited some of the schools on the list, but did not visit Lee Summit North. So they were unable to access the condition of the space. While we understand the full scope of Lee Summit North, Lee Summit North may not be able to be accomplished. This smaller scale project is not a want, it's a need. LSR7 could use a smaller portion of the capital project's budget, which routinely has nearly $10 million to address this highly critical need at Lee Summit North. In fact, a weight room, wrestling room would be a significantly smaller project, and if we are considering the health and safety of our students, this project should be able to be accomplished outside the bond. While we would love the full workup proposed for Lee Summit North, we know $26 million is not available. However, we do know the remaining funds, $1.6 million, and some from the capital projects fund, most likely less than $5 million would get the project successfully completed. Let's be preventative and proactive versus being forced to be reactive due to negligence lawsuit. Our athletes work hard. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Winburn.
Good evening. My name is Chris Winburn. I'm a father of 2 future LSC students. Last fall, my wife and I, along with our 2 little girls, purchased a historic house on the corner of 5th and Grand. When we chose to move back to Kansas City from Colorado, we knew we wanted to live in downtown Lee Summit instead of moving back to our prior neighborhood of Brookside. We did this because of the walkability to downtown and the sweet public elementary school that anchors it all. In the Denver suburb we used to call home, the school district kept their older neighborhood schools thriving by including pre-K in the schools. This helped keep enrollment numbers within an acceptable range at these neighborhood schools, even though the district had an open enrollment policy. Including pre-K into the elementary schools was a win-win for local communities and the district in so many ways, including, but not limited to, keeping ties to the public education strong, maintaining consistency for students and their families, ensuring greater enrollment predictability, and strengthening revitalization efforts in older communities. LSC is important to this community because it provides so many resources for its students and their families. Many of the children who attend this Title I school need additional support where a smaller class size allows for individual attention. Children in this community further depend on walkability to this school. The consolidation of LSC into Westview creates a Title I super school and negatively impacts local students and families who walk to school and rely on it for resources beyond educational needs. As a community, we all have a duty to protect the most vulnerable amongst us, and I can't think of a more vulnerable group than kids who attend Title I schools. So why am I here tonight? I have 3 reasons. First, we're asking for more time. More time to consider alternative options versus simply closing LSC. Renovations and repairs were discussed for months at the elementary school, whereas the closure a mere 3 weeks. If it is indeed determined that LSC closing is the best option, we want a specific plan for what will happen to LSC and its students, especially the low-income students who walk to school and are heavily depend on the resources provided by this Title I school. Number 2, collaboration. We're asking for collaboration of the LSD stakeholders to collaborate with district leadership on alternatives, just as they have been tasked to work on renovations and repairs up until the closure was announced. This latest announcement came with no prior community involvement, and that is a huge concern. And lastly, we're asking for impact versus intention. As part of the LSC closure plan, district leadership intends to keep LSC as a facility controlled by the district. If none of our other concerns are addressed, we are simply asking that LSE be recorded as a restricted asset by the district such that it cannot be sold for private development in the future. Thank you for your consideration.
Ignacio Salazar.
My name is Ignacio. I am a fourth grader at Lee Summit Elementary. I'm a proud member of my school's robotics team, the Cougar Bots, and a member of Cougar Choir. I also have participated in my school's chess and sports clubs. Last week, I went to the LSC PTA meeting. I first sat with my papa and then joined some of my friends. After listening to the presentation and hearing questions from the audience, I wondered what Dr. Buck was really trying to tell us. I stood up and asked the question, are you trying to tell us that only a building can or will make us better? I received a standing ovation. And in fact, I was told by Dr. Buck that it was the best question of the night. I honestly believed it may have been the most important. You see, at my school, it's not the building that makes me better, it's my teachers. It's every teacher. It's Mr. Gus, our custodian. It's Miss Kelly on our playground. It's Miss Mack, our counselor. It's my classmates. It's Miss Gloria in the library that celebrates me as a Mexican American. She goes out of her way to find me books in English and Spanish and with characters that look like me and my brother and my family. She not only does this for me, but for my classmates too. It's Mrs. Maples, my second grade teacher, that saw I was having trouble with my speech. She talked with my mama and my papa and referred me to Miss Woods, our speech teacher. It's because of that I received the resources I need to be able to stand here tonight and give this speech. I also learned that last week in the PTA meeting that my friend and classmate has autism. I never knew that, and we have been in the same class for the past 3 years. You see, LSE creates a sense of belonging, a place where everyone can be seen for who they are and feel accepted. It already has the resources we need. It's not a fancy new building that is going to make us better. Our current school is already doing that. Please keep LSE where it is for me, for my younger brother, for my classmates, for their siblings, for the future LSE Cougars, like my neighbors, and especially for the people that truly are making us better, the teachers, the staff, and my community. Thank you.
Nicolette Sadler.
Hi, I'm Nicolette Sadler. I am a future parent of two children that should go to LSE. After that presentation, I'm going to change a little bit of my talk. I am a nurse practitioner, and I want to ask you, what kind of trauma are we going to cause these students? What you just heard is that you will induce some trauma to these students, and that is heartbreaking. It's also heartbreaking that my child may not be just like him and be able to stand up here one day and speak to you guys about how great LSE is. Now, I may not get through this, and I'm sorry, but the closure of LSE will have significant negative impacts on our community, particularly for the special population of the students that thrive at LSE. We must protect the unique needs of our students and the values preserving our community's heritage. LSE seems to prioritize closing LSE seems to prioritize conforming to a 24 classroom model in the district's image over the educational needs of our children and the integrity of our neighborhood. This is not a one-size-fits-all picture. Now, as previously spoken about, why aren't we putting pre-K into the local schools, especially in these Title I schools where they can't drive their kids to the pre-K program that is currently at Prairie View. If we put it in our elementary schools, it will allow those families to utilize that service if they qualify for it, but it will also increase revenue for the district. Now, the preschools are hard to access. I had a hard time finding preschool for my kids. I'm lucky that we can go to Boone. We love walking there. Now, other people, they choose to go to a private school. So a lot of these private schools that have doubled in size in the last few years, especially after COVID, they are keeping those kids their entire time while they are for their education, negatively impacting our enrollment for the district. Relocating all pre-K programs to LSE, as previously mentioned as an option, does not seem like a good fit for our district. Also, it was mentioned at the PTA meeting that hospitality program being moved to LSE, how that would help cater some of our downtown businesses. How is that anything that is good for our community? How is that good for the education of the kids that live in our community? Transforming the hospitality seems to serve the businesses rather than keeping the integrity of our education. Thank you.
Thank you.
Valerie Salazar.
Good evening. I'm Valerie. I've met all of you and I appreciate your time. I am an LSR7 graduate. I went to Mason Elementary, I went to Campbell, and I graduated from Lee Summit North. I'm also a proud mama of 2 boys, one of which, and 2 of which actually now, are LSE students. LSR7 district leadership is recommending to close a school with the highest percentage of students of color. LSR7 district leadership is recommending to close a school with the highest percentage of free and reduced lunch students. LSR7 district leadership is recommending to close one Title I school and combine it with another Title I school, a Title I supercenter, if you will. LSR7 district leadership is recommending to close a school without ever seeking input from the school board. Leadership only asked permission to talk about this, but yet 1 week later, gave this proposal to the staff and teachers of Lee Summit Elementary. LSR7 district leadership admits publicly they met with city officials, including the mayor, prior to informing the school's main stakeholders, the teachers, staff, families, and students and community. LSR7 does not have available data to show that building upgrades have positively impacted student success, and that's per the Associate Superintendent of Facilities. LSR7's been a year-long process of the Comprehensive Facility Master's Plan, which the final executive summary never mentions closures or consolidations, because district leadership stated that was not the intent. LSR7 district is decreasing in enrollment as our city continues to grow and attract young families. LSR7 district leadership has done nothing to ask why or to seek a solution in increasing numbers of families leaving the district and choosing to send their student to private or homeschool. LSR7 district leadership stated, superintendent stated, he was given the directive by the school board 5 years ago upon his hiring, and yet never took action to solve the, quote, problem. He was just, quote, waiting it out. LSR7 Citizens Advisory Committee, the CIC, spent 14 hours over the last year regarding the CFMP process, never once being informed of a possible closure or consolidation until 2 weeks ago. And yet this week spent 31 minutes to make a decision to close a school with less information than the public received at the LSE PTA meeting. LSR7 superintendent has misled its stakeholders. LSR7 is flawed. It's lost and is losing the trust among its students, its teachers, staff, families, and taxpayers. Please know this effort's not focused on emotion or history while important. You and we need more time for this decision, and you know that. Please act with us.
Thank you all. Next up, we have board committee reports. And let's see, I'll start with board member Dr. Johnson.
I didn't realize we are going to be changing it up, but that's cool. That's okay, I'm ready. So since the last board meeting, I have attended 3 committee meetings, and I attended some of these with others. So if I say something or duplicate something that someone else went to and they were going to mention, forgive me. So I went to the TIF Commission. Excuse me. That was a meeting where we sat with other stakeholders in the City of Lee Summit to discuss development. And people come in and ask for information, or they may ask for incentives in order to get land development or in order to develop land. And LSR7 school board members participate in that, being one of the largest employers in the school district. Largest employers in Lee Summit. And so myself and board member Haley went to this. And while we were outvoted, we did vote against offering this incentive to this development because we didn't feel like it necessarily represented what we needed from as a school board and for the school district with new development coming in. So that's how that went. It was a majority vote. It was a majority vote that they won, and it just had to be a majority. Bill, if I missed anything, you can fill it in. I also went to the Workforce Alliance, where we learned about the Missouri Jobs Program. They are a program that is located in many other locales throughout the Kansas City area, but we now have one located right here in Lee Summit. So it was a great opportunity to hear about all of the programs that they have available to others, and I was excited to know that post-COVID, the healthcare profession is finally starting to grow, and they're looking for nurses and medical assistants and such. So if you know anyone in need of a job or anything like that, the Missouri Jobs Committee, MissouriJobs.gov, would be a good place to start. And then I also went to Team Lee Summit, which I say every meeting is my favorite committee. Thank you for everyone who participates in that. And we started discussing some things around, sorry, I'm having a brain fart. We talked about the survey that went out and just, again, how we can better serve our teachers and our employees of LSR7. It's a multi-stakeholder meeting, and it's really effective. Thank you.
Thank you. Board member Myers?
Yes, I too attended the Team Lee Summit meeting. I also attended Business Roundtable, which was a dialogue from a different set of stakeholders regarding proposed, bond projects. I attended the Safety and Security Pratt last week, and then as a guest, I sat in on both of the CAC meetings this month, just to learn. So that was my week or my month.
Thank you. Board member Haley?
I had a pretty busy month. Had a finance committee meeting recently. Mr. Holder held that. We had a Zoom meeting earlier this week. Not a lot of activity right now. He indicated we'll start getting some revenue in from Jackson County here before too long, and there'll be a little more activity, but there wasn't a lot. I was on the CAC committee, so I attended the CAC meeting this week, and and we had one last week as well. So there was a lot of activity there as we prepared the final bond recommendation to present to the board. We had a safety committee meeting, which was our second one, so we're getting the ball rolling on that. We had a policy committee meeting, board member Miller and myself, to review some policies, including some ones that we had some small changes to, just nothing significant. And then again, I did attend the TIF Commission with board member Johnson. One thing I would point out is typically, or historically, the school has made a small ask of developers that were asking for TIFs, and this particular developer wasn't willing to make that concession, but it'll go to the city council, and they'll end up determining whether they give them a TIF or not. So board member Johnson and I both voted against giving them a TIF.
Thank you. Board member Miller?
All right. I attended the board policy meeting with Board Member Haley, as he stated, and that's basically exactly what it sounds like. We review MSBA policy revisions. This year we're working on the E-Series and the F-Series policies, so we meet with the two of us are the board representatives, and we also have elementary representation, secondary representation, operational representation, and it's led by, oh my gosh, Dr. Carlson. I'm so sorry. I'm like Dr. Johnson. I'm having a brain fart here. So sorry about that. And so, yes, Board Policy Committee. I also sat in on the CAC meeting this week, and I also got to attend this month the CUBE conference, which is an arm of NSBA, which is National School Board Association. And you know, during our work session, we talked about continuing education and professional development. And so that's something that I certainly take very seriously as a board member. I always want to engage in opportunities where I'm learning more. And so I was able to attend the CUBE conference this year. And really it's a great opportunity to meet with with board members from all over the country and really see what's going on in their districts, learn what things are working well, what things aren't working well, try to problem solve things for our district even. So some of my favorite sessions that I was in this time was creating space for student voice. You know, that's a big one for me. I love for our students to have a voice, and so just finding ways to implement student voice in a bigger way. Creating policy to change practice to close the achievement gaps was another really good one that I loved. And then reclaiming the narrative about educational equity and why it matters for every student. And so those were some of the great sessions that I got to attend while networking with other board members from across the country. So thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Garrett?
I didn't have a lot this month, but the last one I had was Lee Summit Educational Foundation. No new updates other than we're kind of focusing on future fundraising for grants and some other things coming up. So that was all.
Thank you. Vice President Eslick?
Thank you. A couple of mine were already addressed, but I did attend the Workforce Alliance meeting with Board Member Johnson and also a business roundtable with Board Member Myers, and they both covered those conversations, so nothing to report there. Also attended board leadership meeting with you and finance committee meeting with Board Member Haley. So the only thing left that I can talk about that you won't get to talk about now is government relations. So at government relations, the content of that conversation was around the airport development. So some may be aware, some may not be aware, but our Lee Summit Airport is looking to rename the airport, and they're also trying to take steps, as they have been over the years, to expand. They have added hangar space. They plan to add hangar space. The district actually has a hangar, or will have a hangar that they will lease share from the city that will support our aerospace program. So they already broke ground on that, but part of that expenditure is actually going to be included in the bond, should that get approved. That is part of the bond funding. But yes, the airport is trying to increase their corporate jet traffic and try to encourage more participation from travelers at the airport. And I also, outside of committee meetings, like many of us, attended some of the meetings at Lee Summit Elementary. I was unfortunately not able to attend the Westview PTA meetings, but I really appreciated the engagement at those events, just as a spectator to hear from the community. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so this month I attended multiple sessions for the Citizens Advisory Committee. We have received a lot of feedback about the recommendation and many other proposals that have been discussed. We will be discussing this publicly on December 5th at the work session when we receive the official recommendation presentation. I attended the board leadership meeting the government relations meeting regarding the Lee Summit Airport. And then I also attended the CUBE conference. One thing from that I would highlight is that I met Jess, who is the creator of Ignite Reading, and she's featured in the film The Right to Read. And I really appreciate the work that our district has done with our administrators working with the parents of struggling readers to advance literacy in our district. It was very interesting to meet many people that are just starting this journey to evaluate what is the science of reading, what is letters training. And so it's been really wonderful just to see how our district has really worked to improve where we are in that and to have a partnership with parents to move literacy forward for our district. And that's my report. All right, 6.01. Can I get a motion to approve the transfer of the funds?
I move to approve the transfer of $5,990,836.85 from the general fund to the special revenue fund.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, item 6.02, approving the treasurer's report and payment of the bills.
I move to approve the treasurer's report and the payment of the bills.
Second.
All right, motion and second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Next up is the consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
Board President, I wanted, before we move on this motion, I wanted to pull item 7.03 from consent to decision.
Are you making a motion to amend the agenda?
Yes, I want to amend the agenda so that I can move this item.
But we already approved the agenda. Can we do that at the beginning of the meeting?
Joe, I think you could do approve items, decision, consent, sans the number of the one she wants to pull. Is that how you would state it? Okay.
Is there someone that would second this motion?
No, I mean, you.
Can we have a motion to discuss?
Can I?
Like, what?
What's the wording of the motion, Joe? Is that okay to ask?
I mean, typically a board member has a right to pull anything off consent agenda for separate discussion, and that's kind of the premise. It doesn't require a motion for that. If a board member wants something discussed individually, any board member has a right to do that.
But isn't that something that's supposed to be done in advance so that, according to Sunshine Law, we have everything, the agenda posted publicly for 24 hours?
I don't think it's a Sunshine Law issue because the agenda is already there and the item supporting the agenda item is already posted. So it's not a question of Sunshine Law. It's more a matter of internal board operations. I mean, we've had situations where people have added things, I think, in mid-meeting when something's come up that's not on the agenda, just reordering it. And I know we had this come up a couple years ago when there was somebody who wanted to take something off consent, I think after the agenda had been approved, and I think we went back and looked at it and concluded that probably it's just in the best interest to go ahead and do that. So because of the board member right, any board member has a right to pull something off consent without a motion or a vote. So, I mean, ideally it would be done when the agenda is being moved and approved, but I think we've, in the past, we've done that, and it's not a Sunshine Law issue.
Yeah, I think not Sunshine Law issue. I think last year the board said we wanted 24 hours advanced before to pull it off, but that doesn't. That's an internal rule that you can quit at any point.
Yeah, I don't know that I was aware of the 24 hour, but yeah, that would be the issue. So if the board has in fact adopted that practice that 24 hours notice is required, then I think that would be what we would want to stick by. And just, going forward, make sure that if you want to pull something off consent, that you give the appropriate notice so that it gets taken off. But it doesn't require a motion or a vote, it's simply board action.
And just for clarification, I did ask it to be removed, but not within the 24 hours, and this is the direction I was told to go, is to do it during the meeting, during this portion.
Can I ask why 24 hours of advance notice was not given?
I was reviewing all the documents again and reading through. This is one that was like, I was questioning. Like, I just had a couple of clarifying questions really to it. It's not that I'm not agreeable. It's just I had clarifying questions that came up after I had read through the agenda once. And so I was doing my reread before tonight to be able to, so.
Yeah, Joe.
I'll try to help. I also think we've had in the past situations where board members have been able to ask a question about a consent agenda item, and that's been taken up during the process. What we don't want to do is obviously have a situation where it may get pulled for a separate vote, and that might be the compromise we reach here based on historical practice, because I know we have had questions asked of administration, sometimes just clarifying questions about a consent agenda item without making it subject of a separate vote. So,
And I'll follow that up. Last year, that was part of the conversation too. Board leadership said if we want to have conversations or questions, we should be pulled. So again, it's an internal rule you don't have to keep because there's no law or anything about that.
I don't think we should set a precedent of having dialogue on consent items, so I think we should just move it if that's the direction that we want to go to have dialogue about it. Just my 2 cents.
Okay, I guess I would question, does this mean we need to readjust our board norms since our practice that we have in place is to have these submitted by the Monday prior to the board meeting? Well, at this point, what do we need to do as far as the verbiage if we are going to pull this item from the consent agenda and move it to an item for decision?
There could be a motion made saying approve the items of decision consent 7.01 to 7.13 sans, which number is it? Sorry, 7.03.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve items 7.01 through 7.13 sans 7.03.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it just so we can vote second.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. All those opposed, raise your hand. Okay, motion fails. Can I get another motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Next is item 8.01, Board Policy FF.
Ms. Bergen, are you going to come up and Board Policy FF, facility names?
Board Policy FF is presented to you at your last work session, I believe, so I'm here for any questions and let you guys carry on your dialogue.
And the final read would be in December 19th meeting.
All right. Can I get a motion?
And if you're wondering, we will put the December 19th meeting with the other topic of a facility name before the final reading of Board Policy FF, if that's what people are wondering.
I move to approve the first reading of Board Policy FF as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion?
Yes. Please. Sorry, I didn't push my button. Do you want me to push it now?
Vice President Aslick?
Okay. Okay, so I included some suggested edits. That was me, so guilty. There were a couple of sentences in the policy that I thought maybe were a little restrictive. So the first one was regarding kind of a redundance in what we're expecting from a diverse membership of our community. It was somewhat redundant, but also restrictive because there's a clarification on what we're defining as diverse representation from the community, which I thought meant that we are then excluding some other elements of diversity. And I thought if you just left the policy the way with the suggested edit, that it would be more expansive of what we consider to be a diverse membership versus pigeonholing our policy into certain categories. So that was my thought process behind that, which is an edit that I propose making to the policy for discussion with the board. And then the second paragraph or a couple of sentences was around giving the Board of Education essentially unilateral authority to rename a facility at their whim. Which I disagreed with because the entire genesis of this policy appears to lay out the process for bringing forward a committee and having that committee deliberate and come up with suggestions. And I think if there is a concern about a facility name, that I think we leverage the same process in our policy and convene a committee to have that committee then review the building name and understand what the concern might be, and then come back with a recommendation to the board versus just giving the board blanket authority to make changes that they just decide they want to make. So that was my thought between those two items, and with that, I will see what the board thinks. So thank you.
Thank you. I would ask Board Policy Committee or Ms. Bergen if these edits are in alignment with the spirit of the policy as it was written by the Board Policy Committee.
Can you rephrase that question for me?
Yes, so there are some suggested edits this evening to the policy. And so I was just asking if these edits would still keep it in alignment with what was discussed, in essence, in the Board Policy Committee. That this isn't changing the policy in some kind of a way that would derail it from the original intent of the committee that reviewed it.
I may need to defer to Dr. Carlson for Board Policy Committee because I don't sit on Board Policy Committee, but when it comes to the naming committee that formulated this policy originally, I don't think so. Both languages or phrases in question were just taken from model policy from existing FFs across the state, and so there are different versions of FFs. I think our committee reviewed every single one of them. Some have this language, some don't, and so it really is kind of up to the Board Policy Committee and the board to decide what version is appropriate for LSR7. Dr. Carlson, would you say anything different?
Thank you. Are there any other questions on this agenda item? Board Member Miller?
I just want to clarify, and Dr. Buck, I think you answered some of it, but just my question is, how will policy FF affect the current process involving specifically the Aquatic Center?
You will have a chance to vote on that prior to the final read, and this does not go into effect until after your final read. It may be minutes later, but it will be later.
Okay.
Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Hold on, can we clarify that,
Oh.
does that include or not include the suggested edits? Because in its present form of the motion, it sounds like we're approving FF as it was originally written. So I'm just wondering, what is the motion actually approving?
You have to make a motion to amend the motion and state what you want
Or
to
we can-
change.
Sometimes it's easier just to vote down the motion and do a new motion. When we try to amend, I get really confused. I need like somebody write it out for me.
Since the item on the agenda currently lists it with the amendments in there, wouldn't we be voting on it as amended?
Mrs. Mert, what was the motion made? That will answer your question.
It was made as presented, which to me means the policy that's attached.
There's one other issue, the edits that we're talking about are only in the administrative content, so members of the public don't have access to that.
Thank you, that does clarify.
And you can amend it next meeting if you'd like instead of this meeting, if that will simplify everything.
Yes. Does that require a vote, or are we okay with that? Like just, okay, yeah, that's fine.
It might be easier. We can get the cleaned up copy and that will become the public document.
Okay,
Sound good?
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification.
that makes it easier.
All right, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have item 9.01. Resident requested item. Lee Summit Elementary, Westview Elementary consolidation and consideration for the 2025 school bond. Under new Missouri law, residents of LSR7 may ask that the board include an item on the agenda of a regular board meeting. The Board of Education has revised policy BDDB2 to accommodate this new law. The board has received a request from a resident to place an item on the agenda for this evening's meeting. Under policy BDDB2, the resident is allotted 3 minutes to speak about the agenda item, and those comments are subject to the same standards and restrictions that apply to persons who speak during the public comment portion of board meetings. Under policy BDDB2, the board ordinarily will not discuss or act on a resident-initiated agenda item at the meeting where it is presented. It will be treated as an information-only item, but may be the subject of discussion or action at a later meeting of the board. This is done so that the board has time to reflect on the item and allow the district's administration and other members of the community time to submit their views on the topic. The resident who has asked to speak or has asked to place an item on the agenda of tonight's meeting is Mcru. Before he speaks, I'd like to remind everyone that the same rules for speaking apply here as they do during our public comment session. And with that, you may begin.
Thank you. I understand that board discussion will be limited this evening regarding the Lee Summit closure. However, I underscore that we are willing to have discussion at any time, and we can provide further clarification if requested. So for the board's consideration, here are some questions that need to be addressed for clarity and transparency. One, concerning the site relocation to Westview, why was the relocation of the Westview site not presented as a single $46.4 million project to the CAC, while similar site relocations involving multiple sites and student groups, such as those for Greenview Elementary and Hazel Grove Elementary, were presented as unified projects? Question 2, consideration of renovation requests. Why was a request to independently renovate Westview Elementary for $4.5 million less than was proposed than the proposed project not allowed for consideration at the CAC meeting, despite being explicitly requested by a CAC member. This stands in contrast to similar requests during the same meeting related to the Prop C question, which were allowed for consideration. 3, letter of advisement. Why was a submitted letter of advisement from the co-president of the Westview PTA not included in the CAC discussion, while a member letter from a different PTA president addressing the same issue was incorporated into the discussion? 4, public engagement at CAC meetings. Is there a mechanism in place to suspend rules to allow for public engagement during CAC meetings? Number 5, the LSE building site plan. Why has the central office not developed a clear plan for the LSE building site, given that district-wide objectives and strategies for the 2024-27 CSIP were approved by the board in March, and the CFMP recommendations were presented in June? 6, the future of the LSE building site. What is the central office's plan for the LSE building site if there are no allocated programs or renovation funds? Question 7, coordination with Lee Summit Public Works. Why was there no coordination with Lee Summit Public Works regarding their ongoing capital improvement project on Northwest Ward Road by the time of the November 6th CFMP meeting? Additionally, why was a request to study the impact of AM and PM peak traffic hours and traffic on this designed 2-lane road and its surrounding community dismissed at this meeting? And finally, LSE expenses. If the board decides to close LSE, what will be the ongoing expenses to the district and taxpayers? I will be providing a list of questions to the board that I would like to know the answers to via email. Thank you, and I open up my time.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Yes, sorry. Next up is item 9.02, Professional Development Annual Evaluation Report.
Thank you for having me tonight and allowing me to speak with you about our professional development office and the work that we have done in this last 2 years. To start, I'll introduce you to our team. We are tiny but mighty. Myself, Kristen Merrill, I'm the Director of Professional Development, and Mary Beth Doss is my administrative assistant. I share her with Dr. Matt Jones, who is the Director of Assessment and Data, and Mary Beth is truly our right hand. Our purpose is to enhance educator effectiveness, support student achievement, and promote a culture of continuous learning. And our focus is to develop and implement comprehensive PD programs and support aligned with district goals and also state requirements. One of the pieces that we did last year that was huge for our department was to upgrade our PowerSchool Unified Talent System, and that is the platform in which we now keep all of our professional development that our staff does, that is district-wide professional development. Prior to this time, this data and this accountability piece, if you will, was kept via Excel spreadsheets or possibly even paper sign-in sheets. And so Mary Beth Doss and I spent over 20 hours of professional development last year upgrading our system and learning about the management of the system, the ability to organize the system, problem solve through the system. And now anything that we do that's district-wide professional development goes into our unified talent platform. And the great thing about it is any of our staff members at any time can log in and they can check their transcript and print out their own transcript of all of their professional development hours that they have completed at district-wide PD. That is a definite plus for us. So district-wide professional development, we provide throughout the year over 175 sessions of district-wide professional development. And you might wonder, well, what does that really mean? That means we provide or support about the same number of hours of professional development as if you were to watch 800 soccer games, or watch 600 movies, or travel 60,000 miles. which really is traveling around the world twice and having an extra 10,000 miles for a great road trip. It's a lot of PD. At the district level PD, we provide in two different areas. One, instruction and leadership, and you can see a variety of PD that we provide. This is not an exhaustive list, but it is the main professional development that we provide our staff. We also provide professional development along with some of our other departments in the area of belonging, well-being, and safety. Additional services that are provided by our department, we introduce and welcome our new teacher academy. That is the mentoring and induction of new teachers. We provide MINT, which is currently a 3-year program for our first, second, and third-year teachers that is aligned with state requirements. We also provide the PDC, which is our District Professional Development Committee, and we also support our continuing education graduate courses that we partner with UCM. We're in a strategic alignment with our previous CSIP for last school year with Action Plan 2.4, and then this year with our new current CSIP. Our financial implications. So our budget, or our department, is funded in 3 ways. One, we have a very small general budget, but most of it comes from 2 spaces, state and federal. And so our state funding is a little over $725,000. And of that, the majority of that goes to District PDC Committee. $216,000 is allocated to building use, and the buildings have their own PDC members. Those PDC members sit on a team at their buildings, and those buildings make decisions on how they will use that funding to support their individual needs at their building in alignment with their building improvement plans and also the CSIP. A large portion of that funding also goes to support all of our new teachers, their mentors, and the MINT program. And then finally, our CSIP-aligned professional learning opportunities throughout the district, which you saw many of those on a slide.
And do you see that 1% that's required by state statute? We set that aside from it's 1% of our state formula, our funding from our state formula.
Thank you. We also have Title IIA, which is our federal program, or federal funding. Last year we had a little over $500,000, and these are some of the programs that we are able to support in professional development because of that federal programming money. This funding can only be spent on new programming. We cannot supplant money and spend our Title II funding on something that we've already found funding for in a different way. So these are all of the pieces that we currently fund out of Title IIA. Our planning process, we are driven by the CSIP, and so we use that, and then our other evidence includes our achievement data. We also do survey data, anecdotal feedback, changes to standards within our curriculum, legislative mandates, and we also take input from our instructional operations team, which is our academics team that supports all of the different departments within the academic piece of LSR7. Some feedback we received, one of our large professional development opportunities is our professional learning pathways. That's our district-led PD that we do district-wide 2 or 3 times a year, depending if we are elementary, middle school, or high school. And as you can see, the pre-assessments that they took at the beginning of the year last year, we had a 42% rating, and by the post-assessments, those had grown by over 50%, and were over 90% of learning in all of their professional learning pathways. Those cover over 40 topics. All 40 topics are aligned with our CSIP and our district goals. For our MINT, our Beginning Teachers Program, you can see our data there. We have large percentages of 100%, 90%, 87%, and 94%. I think when I look at this, the last 2, this professional learning experience was relevant to my work as an educator, and participating in MINT helped me grow as a professional and a learner. It is meaningful to them. It helps them grow their independence, their confidence, and their skill set as they network throughout the district and learn how we do business in LSR7. And finally, some anecdotal data. I'll just give you a moment to look at that. This feedback comes from teachers who are currently in our district, who are experienced teachers. This is some feedback that they provided us after their different professional development opportunities last year. The next anecdotal piece that I would like to share with you, this comes from two of our new teachers, new to our school district, who came from other districts. Both of them are very powerful. The one on the right shares, I wanted to extend my appreciation beyond just a survey. I've been overseas and experienced so much in the world, and I've been thinking constantly about just how amazing your initiation program has been for all of us. This past week has been so exhilarating as we got acclimated. I'm so happy to begin my new life with you in LS. And I think that's what we strive for. We strive to welcome our new teachers. We welcomed this year over 150 and last year over 150 new teachers. Many with experience coming in, I think I remember about over 1,000 years of experience coming in to this district. It's pretty great. And finally, last piece. This came from one of our experienced teachers here in the district. Thank you. It was a meaningful and informative event. I really appreciated having PD that will help me move forward with students in my classrooms. For the first time in 12 years, I walked away from PD with grateful tears in my eyes and a hopeful spirit. And I think that's what our department wishes to do. We wish to grow teachers so they can grow their students and be successful in their classrooms and be able to have that spirit of hope, that ability to feel like they're seen, heard, and supported. And so thank you for your time. If you have any questions.
Are there any questions on the floor?
I just have a comment. Thank you. This was a great presentation. I just love knowing what you all do to support our teachers' continued learning. So, and the new teachers coming in. That's awesome. So thank
It's a
you.
great job. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Next up, we have 9.03, Prop C overview.
And by the way, you accepted Mr. Holder's retirement earlier tonight, so.
Good evening. I was asked by Dr. Buck to give some general information tonight regarding Proposition C. We've talked about Prop C really over the course of the 3.5 years that I've been here, multiple times, multiple different venues, but it has been at separate times, CAC presentations, and rarely do we have all 7 board members in the same room at the same time. So we thought it'd be a good idea just to go over the information tonight. This is, just a high level, but the hope is to give you just a basic understanding of what Proposition C is, what we have in regards to a partial waiver, the impact that has, and then ultimately the consideration that we know CAC was charged with giving a recommendation that will come in December for the board to consider. So what is Prop C? Proposition C was passed by the voters way back in 1982, and it enacted a 1% sales tax that was to be used for K-12 public education. And when it was passed, the agreement was that revenues received from the sales tax are distributed to school districts. At that time, it was based on enrollment. It has since changed to weighted average daily attendance, which is something that every school district in the state has a weighted average daily attendance that's calculated each year. Districts are then required, the original proposition, to reduce their operating levy to 50% of what the Prop C revenue payment was from the state. And so we'll see that calculation here in a few slides, unless voters approved a waiver. And so, over the course of time, especially in the mid-90s, really early to mid-90s was when the first wave came in, and we'll see some statistics on that again on the next slide. In 2008, I believe, the voters approved a 20-cent partial rollback of Proposition C. Earlier, voters had approved a partial rollback of 20 cents, but it was set to it was due to sunset in 2010, which can be done really for any levy ask in a school district. You can put a sunset clause on it. And so in 2008, they went back to the voters and asked for that full approval without a sunset, and it was approved. So that's what we have now. And so our current Prop C rollback is just over 13 cents for the 24-25 school year. And the way that's calculated, which again, we'll see the sheet that we actually do that calculation on, the rollback is 33 cents, just over 33. And so then we apply the waiver each year. In the 4 years that I've been here, the waiver has, we've rolled back 15 cents, just over 15 cents, just over 10 cents, just over 12 cents, and then this year was just over 13 cents. So it's generally in the 10 to 15 cent range. It has been, if you go back and look further, you can see that some years it was 16, 17, I think 18 cents was the highest rollback that I saw when the partial waiver was in place. So across Missouri, what does it look like? Well, there's 472 districts out of the total 518 that have fully waived their rollback, again, over the course of time from 1982 to now. 24 have partially waived that rollback, and that includes us. And then there's 22 that have no waiver. Now, there are some districts that have no waiver, and they apply whatever the calculation is. But of those 22 districts, there's also a significant number that have no waiver, but their levy is already set to a point where it's below the state minimum of $2.75. And so it doesn't matter what it gets rolled back to in that situation, because they're always going to set the levy at the minimum of $2.75. So that's just a little bit of a caveat there when you look at the 22 that have no waiver. Not all of them are that way, but a significant portion are.
And just let me interject. Joe Kender said to CAC he believes that only out of those 46, only 8 actually have to roll back because the rest of them are hold harmless, or Kansas City they're set somehow by some court case. I don't know exactly how Kansas City's levy set.
So if the Board of Education, just like it was in 2008, if the board asks for a waiver vote of any kind, it is a simple majority vote. That's different than a bond vote, which requires 57.4%. The Prop C, which is just like the operating levy, is a 50% plus 1. And that's just a sample question that Gilmore and Bell had given. I think that was in the presentation to the CAC of what the language of that would look like. So what's the impact? So for the school district, the revenue is about $4.5 million, the 13 cents. Now, for the taxpayer, it depends obviously on the value of the property, but just for some context, 13 cents is equal to about $75 on a home that's valued with a market value assessment of $300,000. How is Prop C calculated? Really, there's 3 variables, and that's it. There's what was the Prop C revenue from the prior year. That's a number that we know. What is the reduction from the railroad and utility taxes? And the state gives you that estimated number each year, and then you apply what your actual number was, and it can cause that to go up or down. And then what your assessed value is. Those are the only 3 factors. So what that looks like, and this is the actual worksheet that we submit, and when I submit the tax rate to the auditor, the state auditor for approval, because we do not have a full waiver, I actually submit this worksheet every year for them to review. So you can see there on line 1, you take half of the full Prop C revenue. So our Prop C revenue in 23-24 was just over 22.3 million. So you cut that in half, you get that number. We didn't have any prior year adjustment, we didn't have any recoupment. The collection fee rate is a 0.025 or a 0.015. Those are your two choices. We have historically done 0.025, and when we look at the collection rate from Jackson County, it's right in between 0.015 and 0.025. So we use the 0.025. That number is then subtracted off, so you get the 11.87 million. Then you get the railroad and utility taxes calculation. So again, you see that letter A, the estimated railroad utility tax revenue. It's estimated, but the state tells you what that estimate is. So I use the letter that the state sends us. It's on the second page of our Prop C letter. They give us the number to use. Then letter B is the actual. So we look at the 23-24 school year, Fund 1, 2, and 4. You'll notice Fund 3 is not a part of that, but Fund 1, 2, and 4, because in the eyes of the state, it's all considered one in terms of your levy. So you calculate, you don't calculate, you put in what it is for the 23-24 school year. And then, as I said, that can either reduce it or raise it. Now, most often it reduces it because the state is usually estimating high, but it could go either way. That gives you the total of 11.3 million. Then the calculation is simply your assessed valuation. So for us, it was just over 3.4 billion. What does it take to get $11.3 million off of that? And so the answer is the 33 cents, 0.3323. Then you apply the partial waiver to that, the 20-cent reduction. That's how you get the 0.1323. So every year, it's the same calculation. It's just the numbers that change based on the actual revenue that's received in those two areas, and then whatever your assessed value is. It's a pretty high-level overview, but hopefully it's one that is helpful. So anybody have any questions?
I do have a question. How do, if it any impact at all, Jackson County did assess values, there are still some appeals and things like that. How does that impact the calculations if we haven't received?
The higher that AV goes, the lower that rollback is. So because it takes less pennies in to go to a higher AV amount.
Yeah, it's a year-to-year calculation, Dr. Johnson. So whatever it is for that year is what you use, and then if it goes up or down in future years, it's just you don't go back in time based on what it was. You just use what it is for the current year.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm not being clear.
I think I'm trying to answer. So if
we
the
don't
AV,
have some of that because of the appeals. So that's
no,
what I'm saying.
has nothing to do with that. But if
Okay.
the AV is higher, the rollback will be lower because each penny
Yes.
generates more dollars.
Right.
If the AV drops, the rollback goes up because it takes more pennies to generate those dollars.
Okay,
Am I
so
saying
the
that right?
appeals don't impact it, the fact that we haven't received some revenue.
No, collection rate does not affect this.
Not this year. Now, next year, depending on what it is, then it could. But yeah, we have to take what they send us as the final certification, and that's how we calculate it.
Do we have any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have the items of information written reports 10.01 through 10.03. Do we have any questions? Okay. Seeing none, we are now adjourned. Thank you all very much for being